I guess we are live. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah. And, well, we got a good guest tonight. Yes, we got Jim Goodall. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. But just wanted to say hello to everybody. I'm going to check out the comments and just let you all know tonight we are not only on YouTube, but we're also on Facebook. We're on Twitch, Twitter, and I think maybe one more. I don't know. Oh, yeah, no, Parlor later. So how that's going to work, I had to do some research and figure it out. So we're going to do an hour, and then we're going to have a 30-minute break. So you guys can, take a break. And then for those that are Patreon members, come onto the Patreon page around 8:30, because that gives me time to reset everything, because I have to do a whole new stream and set up keys and all that stuff. So I need some time to do that and go to the bathroom and whatnot. And then we'll have the guests back on, and I'll take the leash off and just let them go, because we won't be restricted like we are on other platforms. So anyway, hope you're all doing well tonight. Hello, Renee. Welcome, welcome. Paul's here. Hello, Paul. Elise, hello. Connie just jumped in. Oh, wait. I'm a lot of buttons. So there's Renee. Here's Paul. There's Paul. Hey, Paul. And then Elise. And then Connie says hello. So welcome, everybody. Now, if you could please, I know I'm going to ask every night, please hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do get the notifications that the show is on. And share it if you wouldn't mind. And not just, post. Make a little comment. Say, hey, this is my boy Doc, or, my friend, and he's got this really cool show. You got to check it out. Give it that little extra for the post, because everybody, people just scroll past the video, sometimes. So there, little insider trick. Angela. Hello, Angela. Oh, got to put Angela up here. There we go. Hello. Wow, Angela, you're very young. Anyway, all right. So tonight I've got a great show. My buddy Jim Goodall is here, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things. First, we're going to cover two topics that have just happened in the news that I want to. Well, one that's in the news. The other, I'm not sure if it's the news, but it is going around, so I want to bring it up just in case, because we know how that works online. And then we're going to go into it with Jim. And if you don't know who Jim is, well, he's a badass, and he's my friend, and he's worked on some amazing projects in the military, like the SR-71, and he does these awesome books like this one, and it is gorgeous. I mean, even the inside, it's got, well, it's really hard for this show on the camera, but it looks like the jet. It is the jet. Anyway, all beautiful photos. There we go. I mean, just the history of the SR-71. And he's got a lot of books, a lot. I only have a few, but I'll show them throughout the night, including his latest masterpiece, which is awesome. And just to give you a little taste, so you know not to leave and you sit around and wait for it. 75 years of skunk works. Oh yeah, Jim's the man. You know what I'm saying? All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to bring him on. Wait, hold on. We got to get this out of the way. Kimberly, hello. Got to say this because I don't want to interrupt Jim. So Kimberly, hey. Audrey, hi Audrey, how are you? Sure. Audrey is awesome. Just so you know, treat her like royalty. Paul says, got that one. Love it. Oh yeah, Paul. Yeah, he was at. Did you get at Disclosure Con? Because Jim was there. So Audrey says, hold on. Someone needs to check the air pressure in this cabin, because it's. I don't know. I'm just getting really excited. She says, I'll be there. I'm not working tonight. Woohoo! Well, we're here. And let's see. Andy says, what's up, Doc? Hey, Andy, how are you? All right. So yes, a disclosure con when you met him. That's right. Okay, so I was correct. All right. Now, without any further ado, now we got everybody. Did roll call, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Goodall. There we go. Hi, Jim.
Hey, how's it going? And Paul, I recognize the location. You're in Waikiki, and that's Diamond Head behind you. That was my home for
Wow.
that was my home for 4 years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Good eye.
I mean, there's very few places have a backdrop, even though you can't see Diamond Head. I know the buildings. I've been in a couple of them, and that's just the view you get from Duke's there at Waikiki.
Uh-huh.
So I'm delighted to be on. Doc is probably the main reason I'm even in this community. We ran into him with March of 19. I had absolutely no involvement in the UFO community, even though I have a lot of interest in it. And I went up to the MUFON function in Phoenix to see my friend Michael Schratt, because I know he was coming into town. I also know that George Knapp, who I've known forever, and his friend Jeremy. I was there primarily to see Michael. And the exhibit area was empty. I wasn't there for the conference. I didn't really know I was going to go there until that morning. And I walk in there. The first person I run into is Doc, and it was like
it was empty. It was everybody was next door at the Jeremy Corbell's movie watching the Lazar, and it was just me and Jim in this huge arena of booths, like
but it was meeting. It was like meeting an old friend for the first time. I mean, we just sort of. And I really enjoy virtually everybody I've met in this community. And I got to say hi to Audrey. Yeah, she's she was just a character at the Disclosure Con late last year. Yeah, so but I saw she posted twice. Welcome to the show, Audrey, and same with you, Paul, and everybody else that it's on.
Yep. Oh, Terry's asking if we're on YouTube yet. Yeah, we should be streaming on YouTube. But yes, because Paul's watching on YouTube. It tells me which chat rooms you guys are in, so I know where you guys are watching me from.
Okay.
So we're on Facebook, YouTube, actually 2 Facebooks, YouTube, and Twitch. Oh, wait, I'm getting an exclamation point on the YouTube thing. What does that mean? Just to make sure. Okay. Well, Paul's watching me on YouTube, so I guess it's working. Anyway, we're also on Twitch and Twitter, supposedly, but I didn't want to have too many windows open. So, anywho, yes. So you were saying, I'm sorry, she was asking about that. I'm just so excited because I don't know what you're going to talk about tonight, and I'm just it could be anything. I'm excited, but we're going to talk about the books, and let's talk about. Well, let's start off with third phase, since that's the biggest thing coming up next. That's like in the next couple days, right?
Yep.
Okay, and it's above top secret. And what's the subline? Do you remember?
No, my brain has been focused on everything else.
But yeah, you've been pretty busy with other things this past few weeks. Yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you taking the time to do this show tonight. So thank you.
I need a break.
Yes. No, I totally understand. So we had you guys, or if anybody saw the movie Countdown to Disclosure, which came out, was it the summertime?
I think so.
Around summertime, and it was number 2 or 3 on Amazon documentaries for a few weeks, I know of, and iTunes and whatnot. And it was huge. It was right when they were doing the 180 days to the disclosure, when they were revealing, and it really wasn't much. It was like, okay. But the movie was amazing. I mean, it was showing stuff that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. It wasn't like recaps of Roswell and stuff like that. It was all new, awesome, amazing information. And can I tell? I'm just going to tell them the story real quick on how we got you in on it.
Sure.
Okay, because you are my knight in shining armor. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this man is so freaking amazing. When I needed help moving, he drove like 3 hours up the mountain in his little SR-71, you might say, and helped me move. Well, while we were taking a break, we were sitting at the kitchen table. I get a call from Blake and Brent Cousins. They're like, "Hey, we're working on this project. It's a little top secret right now, but do you know anybody that can help us get in touch with Bob Lazar?" And I'm like, And I look across the table. There's Jim. And I'm like, "Can you give me a second?" And I'm like, "Jim, hey, could you get Bob Lazar? Could you get in contact with him?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll call him." So I was like, yeah, it's done. So Jim calls him at my kitchen table, and I'm sitting there like just a little boy with his camera and just all giddy that I'm hearing Bob Lazar's voice in my kitchen area over the phone. And you mentioned my name to him. So that was that was amazing. It's like, he now knows I exist. But it was an amazing phone call. You were discussing about the disclosure that had come out in the news and what he had thought about it. And you're gonna have to see the film to hear the reply. But from that point, I know the boys at Third Phase, they just fell in love with you. They're just like, "This guy's amazing." And I was like, "I know, right?" So now so you're in the first one, Countdown Disclosure, and you are now also in the second part of the movie, which is called Above Top Secret.
Do I get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next to Trump's?
It's very possible. It's very possible. So yeah. Oh, let me do this real quick. So that then I had you at Disclosure Con, and everybody loves you at Disclosure Con. And yeah, you got to meet some amazing people because I'm all about bringing amazing people together. That's just why I think I was here.
It was my time on the stage that was exciting.
Well, that was brought up the other night when I announced you were coming. Like, "Man, he took a huge fall off the stage." I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about it." But no, you were a trooper. I was sitting there going, "Oh, lawsuits, I'm in so much trouble." and you just got right back up, didn't miss a beat, and just kept going. And yeah, I was a nervous wreck for about 45 minutes, just making sure you were okay, because I was out in the hallway, and I mean, there's video. I don't know. Have you seen the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a tough old bird. I'll tell you that.
I mean, it's what 30 inches, 34 inches from the top.
Yeah, but from the video view, I mean, you went down hard. I mean, you don't need much to go down hard.
Yeah. I don't remember falling.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember getting up and wondering what the hell I'm doing on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happened so fast. So fast. I was in the hall by that doorway talking to the vendor right there, and I hear screams, and I come around the corner, and there's already 3 guys running up to the back of the stage. I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" But yeah, I'm just glad you were okay. So
yeah.
Next time we'll put little wall things around it, little bumpers.
Yeah, for old farts. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Hold on. Let's do a quick check on everybody. And then we'll let you get started. Okay. Terry says no. Oh, that's something from earlier. Hey, Blake is here. Blake is here, and he says, "Hi guys. The YouTube is not streaming yet." Oh no. Well, it just says an error occurred. Wait and try again. Damn. Well, that's arg. I don't know. The only way I could do is if I restarted everything, and we've come too far. All right, so we'll have to somehow copy this show, put it on YouTube, and it'll just be a delayed show. That sucks though. I'm just learning and figuring all these bells and whistles out, and this program has to go into that program for that program to work to this program, and it's you need like a flow chart. So all right, well, Farfignugan, I'm going to remove this one. and take that off. That sucks. All right, so it's gonna be Facebook for this show, and then we'll be over at Patreon, and then I'll have to copy the show and put it back over there on YouTube. So what happened? Did I just lose people? Oh, no, Audrey's on Facebook. So everybody came over to Facebook. Okay. All right, cool. Well, I just want to make sure that we're at least broadcasting. So I'll just copy and paste. All right. So you got these amazing books. When did you start doing all these photo album books? I guess you could call them.
Well, first of all, in both elementary school, junior high school, and college, I absolutely hated writing term papers. Couldn't stand it. The fact that I'm a published author with 29 books to my name surprises me more than it does people who have known me. I mean, how the hell did it happen? But I've always had a love affair with airplanes. Yeah, I'm an old guy. I turned 77 in a little over 2 weeks. And when I was about 5 years old, I had a something happened that more or less didn't scar me for life, but sort of focused my attention on the sky. I'm a third generation San Franciscan, but my dad was going to school at San Jose State College at the time, and we lived in a duplex in San Jose, not far from San Jose Municipal Airport. And I already had gone to bed, and this is 1950s, 51 time frame. And my dad came into the bedroom, and it was still light outside. He said, "I don't know what's coming, but you have to see it." So we went outside, and over the Coast Mountains came not one, not two, but 24 Convair B-36s. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it had 6 rear-facing radial aircraft engines and 4 jet engines, 2 on each wingtip. Wingspan was 260 feet, bigger than a 747 or even a 777. And it could fly for 60 hours unrefueled, nonstop. But they were coming back from a show of force over China when they flew over. And in the early 1950s, it was the biggest thing in the sky ever. Now, there's been a few other things that were bigger since, but not up to that point. And that sort of, I think from that point on, I was fascinated in machines. And we used to go down to the train yard and watch the trains come in. Yeah, fast forward, we have now moved into the Mountain View, Los Altos area, what is now called Silicon Valley. It was back then in the 1950s, it was known for its fruits and nuts, not the two-legged kind, but the type that grows on trees or plants. And we lived in the middle of an apricot orchard. At least it wasn't when the development started. By the time I left in 1962, the only trees left are the ones were in people's backyards. But it was a time of a lot of change, a lot of fun. I had a dear friend named Danny, and his dad was base commander at Moffett Field Naval Air Station. And that's where the Ames Flight Research Center is, and it's part of NASA now. It was NACA back then. But they tested all sorts of fun things in the big wind tunnels. And Danny and I pretty much had the run of Moffett Field. And we knew where not to go. We never went on the taxiways with our bicycles or the runway, but we went everywhere else. And back then, those are who may have been in the military know what the red lines are on a flight line. There was no such thing back in the day. You just watch where you're going. But Danny called me up and said, "Hey, you coming over today?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm riding my bike over." He said, "There's something really, really cool in Hangar 1, which was the big hangar. That's the one the Google brothers reskinned here a couple of years ago." So I head off to Moffett Field, and it's about 3 miles away by bike. And I get up to the gate, and I'm waiting for Danny to come and get me. And the two of us were referred to as Captain Smith's son and that friend of his, and I was that friend of his. And they just, all the security patrol and the shore patrol, I should say, and the Marine guards knew us. I mean, they could tell from a mile away, two kids on bicycles, that's going to be Jimmy and Danny, and they were almost always right. But Danny said, I got to show you something really cool in the big hangar. So we ride our bikes there. The hangar doors pointing towards Mountain View were open. The back ones were closed, the ones closest to the bay. And we'd ride our bicycles right down the middle of this incredible hangar. And those who have never seen the Hangar 1 at Moffett Field, it is 400 feet wide, 400 feet tall, and 1,100 feet long.
Wow.
And they used to put Zeppelins and blimps in there. But I digress. So we get to the very end, the north end of the hangar, and there is an area that's cordoned off with black drapes. And it just says keep out. It doesn't say use of deadly force authorized. No one's there guarding it. So Danny moves the curtain back, said, come on in. And I go in there, and staring at me is the still classified secret XF-104 Starfighter. That was the missile with the man in it. And even 50, 60 years later, it is still a beautiful airplane. You see an F-104 at an air show or at a museum. It's just little short, stubby 7-foot wings, with a razor edge on the end.
Wow.
It would go Mach 2.2. But that just so we go in there, and here's this brand new. I mean, it still had the new car smell, the new airplane smell to it. And Danny opens the canopy, puts the boarding letter next to it, opens the canopy. Said, well, get in. Oh, sure. So here, I think I'm 10, 9. Hey, the cousin brothers, and there's Audrey again. And I jump in, and he closes the canopy and latches it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sort of playing zoom, zoom. And all of a sudden, I started getting a little bit panicky, not because of I didn't have claustrophobia, but I know what we were doing was probably not kosher. So I try to unlatch the canopy, and it sticks. I can't open it. Danny can't open it from his side. So what do? You got to call Shore Patrol and the military and the Marine guards. We got my butt chewed. It still hurts 70 years later. It's
wow. I mean, what did you find out if it was just like a little lever you should have lifted or something?
No, it was relatively new. It was a new airplane, and it just needed a little more muscle than Danny had. I didn't have it, and I didn't pull hard enough. I didn't want to pull hard enough. If I did, it would have unlatched, but I didn't want to break anything. I knew I was sitting on an ejection seat, but I wasn't old enough to realize that in a wind tunnel, trust me, the ejection seat would have been disarmed or dearmed. Yeah. The rocket motors, removed from it. So that was really my entrance into the Skunk Works.
And that's when you fell in love with
the F-104 was one of Kelly Johnson's wonders. I mean, we have the P-80, the first operational jet fighter. You have which turned into the T-33 and the F-94 and the P-8, the interceptor that they used in Korea. And then you have this missile with a man in it, the F-104. And that one comes after that is the U-2 spy plane. I mean, everything that came out of Kelly's mind was something so totally radical and so totally different from anything that they had built previously. And they're still doing it today, but not to the level of jumping leaps and bounds through technology.
Yeah.
So
can you say who Kelly is, just so people that don't know?
Clarence L. Johnson went to school. He grew up in Michigan. He went to the University of Michigan as an aeronautical engineer, and he got a job at Lockheed back just before World War II. And I think he was instrumental in correcting some deficiencies with the Lockheed Hudson, which was a twin-engine bomber primarily used for export. But he could look at an airplane drawing and tell you, I mean, even a rough sketch, and he could tell you how well that aircraft would perform.
Wow.
Which is really amazing. I had a chance to meet him. His replacement and his right-hand person was Ben Rich. And Ben and I had a friendship that, spanned 25 years. But
no, talk about it, especially, well, he Ben, people don't know who he is. He was, well, you could tell him. I'll let you probably describe it better than me because he was your friend.
Ben Rich was responsible for the Blackbirds being able to fly Mach 3 or Mach 3.2. He was an aeronautical engineer, but he was also an expert on fluid dynamics, airflow. And the thing about the Skunk Works, you didn't have to have a PhD from MIT to get into there, to be part of their design team or part of their, the guys that are going to build this thing. You have to take in consideration that it had only been 15 years since Chuck Yeager had gone Mach 1, about 700 miles an hour, in a rocket-powered airplane. No manned air-breathing airplane could hardly go supersonic back then, and even through the early 50s. And in 1958, Lockheed was tasked to do a preliminary study on a replacement for the U-2 spy plane. And that and the desired speed was Mach 3 to Mach 4. Okay, 3 times the speed of sound to 4 times the speed of sound, between 80 and 120,000 feet. So from the signing of contract to first flight was 32 months. And the first flight was on the 26th of April, 1962. At the time, it was above top secret. Only a handful of congressmen and just a few senators had any idea what it was. But it was money that was the original Blackbirds were funded and was a requirement issued by the Central Intelligence Agency. And they ended up building 15 A-12s, of which 2 of them were mother airplanes for launching drones. And 3 of them in the middle were primarily the YF-12 interceptors, the first Blackbird to be made public.
So, yeah, we're talking about the Blackbirds, this SR-71. And you
Yeah.
said there was how many? Because this I wanted to point out on the show. I mean, this is the SR-71 book, okay, everybody? Check it out. And if you can, order yourself one. This page, I think, is just really awesome. Is this each individual tail number of the different SR-71s?
Well, no, that's just all the tail markings that had something other than standard markings on. That's tail art.
Okay, that's all.
Tail art was only authorized when they were outside the continental United States, or CONUS, they would call it.
Really?
They were afraid of offending somebody by something. I mean, it's the political correct world that we've gotten ourselves into. So,
yeah, and real quick, something that's always puzzled me is why did they come up with the name Skunk Works?
In the 1940s, 1950s, there was a cartoon series in the morning newspaper called Little Abner.
Mm-hmm.
And Little Abner, he was from the hills of West Virginia or Kentucky or somewhere in Appalachia.
Uh-huh.
And they were always mixing up incredible brews, and it was in a place that Little Abner called the Skunk with an O, S-K-O and K, the Skunk Works. So initially, that's what Kelly did, because this was so different. They were using stuff that they hadn't used before as far as chemicals. The place kind of stunk, so that's what they ended up. And so they initially used the Skunk Works, and can't remember who the publisher was, but they wrote him and said, no, that is a copyrighted name of a character in the Little Abner series. You can't use it. So they said, well, we'll just call it the Skunk Works because this stuff is kind of stinky stuff.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, far out stuff. And the name stuck. And one
And now,
thing.
and now it's the little logo guy.
Yeah. And I did a book signing at the Skunk Works last June. They were thrilled to have it. I had an email from 3 retired Skunk Works bosses saying that, oh, there was stuff in there I had no idea of. And I mean, that was the comment from all 3 of them. There was stuff in there I had no idea. And one of them said that that Lockheed should have hired me to write some of their put some of their advertising together or publications together because I did such a good job on this history, and I'm very, very proud of it.
You should be. Yes.
My very dear friend Jay Miller, who is one of the reasons I got into writing and photography. I used to supply Jay with a lot of detailed photography because I traveled all over the country. I've been to all 50 states.
Oh, and you were also the curator in Hawaii of the I'm sorry if that's the wrong title, but
no, I was associate curator at the Pacific Aviation Museum in Pearl Harbor for 4 years. Prior to that, I was the project restoration manager for the de Havilland Comet, the world's first jet airliner, with the Museum of Flight in Seattle. Yeah. At their restoration center up at Payne Field. That's where the wide-body Boeing airplanes are built, and the restoration center is up there. And that was my baby for 10 years. I put in hands-on about 21,500 man-hours of my time.
Wow.
And it was just fun. And prior to that, I'm one of the founding members of the Minnesota Air Guard Museum in Minneapolis, and I was part of that until I left in the 90s and headed west.
And before that, you were in the military.
Yeah,
you worked on these. You worked on the Blackbirds, so that's why I'm telling people you need to listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. And I helped take apart 2. And one of the fun things that I did is because of my friendship with Ben Rich. Now we talked about once a quarter for 25 years. And in August of 1989, he calls me at home. Now, if I didn't call him, he called me. And it was just, I don't even know how I got into that relationship, but it was wonderful. Ben said, Jim, I got it from the horse's mouth that the Blackbirds aren't going to make it through Congress. And if anybody can scrounge one, it's you. So, So I got on the horn. I went over to the base the next day and got on DSN, which is your defense telephone network. This is before you had cell phones were popular and it cost an arm and a leg. So I'd go. It used to be called Autovon way back in the 60s and 50s. So I got on our military line and I contacted the adjutant general for the state of New York. Adjutant General for the Army and Air Guard for the state of New York. It was General Weaver. Secretary answered the phone and said, General Weaver's office. I said, ma'am, this is Sergeant Goodall with the 133rd. Is General Weaver available? I said, just a minute, Sergeant. I'll send you off to him. He picks up the phone and I said, General, this is Sergeant Goodall with the 133rd. How can I help you, Sarge? I said, I got a question for you. So what's that? How would the New York Air Guard like to move the world's fastest airplane in a couple of your C-5s? And he said, I was dead silent for a few seconds. He said, you mean the Blackbird? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, you call Will Hall. It'll be training for moving outside cargo. So I went to my boss, Major General Al Schwab, and I said, General Schwab, I want to get a Blackbird for our museum. He starts laughing at me. And I said, General, do me a favor. give me the opportunity to fail. I
Right.
said, all right, smarty, if we got one, how would you get it here? I said, got that covered. He said, what do you mean? I said, I called General Weaver. He's the tag at New York Guard. Asked him if he'd be willing to move a Blackbird in a couple of his C5s, and he said yes. And
Wow.
General Schwab just scratching his head, and he said, all right. So I contacted the senior congressional person for the state of Minnesota. At the time, we had 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans, one each on the senators and even up on the congressmen. And I don't know if my letter, I have to say my letter did some good, because we got the entire Minnesota congressional delegation to sign off on the fact that we should have a Blackbird here, primarily for its content. All of the navigation, environmental controls, the stabilization augmentation system, the inlet control system, they're all made by Honeywell. The air data system and other stuff is made by Rosemont. All sorts of special adhesive and chemicals and whatever used in the airplane is made by 3M. So we just, and of the original A-12 pilots, of the original 15 A-12 pilots, 5 of them learned how to fly in the Guard, or got their time in the Air Guard. So we used that. I said, plus one of the operational pilots for the Black Shield missions over in North Vietnam and North Korea, his mom lives up here in the upper Midwest in southwestern Minnesota. So, I mean, I threw everything I could at it and to see what would stick, and it did.
Wow.
And we were assigned the 8th production Blackbird, which was an A-12.
I'm trying to look for it so I can show people.
It'll be in the beginning of the book. Oh, the movement part. Yeah, that's me and my Blackbird right there.
Yes. This is one of my favorite photos of you, and we used it during Disclosure Con. Let me bring this up.
That's my hero shot.
Yeah, it is.
That's my A-12 in Minneapolis.
It's awesome.
So,
and there's a bunch of photos like that, and I love how you have like even the cockpits, the different cockpits.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're very, very detailed in this. I mean, you got up in the landing gears.
I'm a former scale model builder of airplanes and cars and stuff. And I love, that's how I got started in my books. Is my first one with Squadron Signal. I think they're out of business now. Was a walk around on the Blackbird, and where I go in, I photograph primarily for use of someone who wants to spend an inordinate amount of time detailing a plastic airplane that's this big,
right?
Where you can see it in the seat belts and all the lines and stuff like that. So that's how he started off, and I just one thing led to another. My love affair with the Blackbird, it started. Today is March 10th, right? Okay.
Right.
58 years ago today, at about 3:15 local time, California time, I saw my first Blackbird. I was an 18-year-old airman second class. That's 2 stripes. They don't call them airman second class anymore because that's politically incorrect. So, but I was an airman second, and I had a specialty. I was teaching telemetry and control systems at Lowry in our communications unit, and I went there TDY to help install ground-based telemetry systems for 3 Category 1 flight test programs. The YC-141, which is a Lockheed airplane, that was the Starlifter, high wing 4-jet engines. It was primarily military cargo. The XB-70 Valkyrie, that was the Mach 3 6-engine, huge supersonic bomber. It had a radar cross section. In the days of stealth, like we are today, the radar cross section was about 3 square miles on the XB-70, but it flew at 80,000 feet at Mach 3. At least it did a couple times. And then there was a classified program. And that classified program eventually was made public, and it turned out it was the Blackbird. It was the YF-12 interceptor. So the morning they came in on the morning of February 29th. It was a leap year. Came in at 7 o'clock that morning. Came straight in from Area 51. I mean, they didn't. They landed short. They turned off as soon as they could. They got to the Lockheed hangars, and the engines are running. And both airplanes. It was 2 of them came in. 934, 935 came in, and they're sitting there idling with their J-58s going. And I don't know if they went Mach 3, so the airframe's also hot. And they shut the engines off, but still blowing hot. They push it into the hangar. Push it in the hangar, and they set off the deluge system. It's a water.
The sprinkler system?
It was not sprinklers. It's a deluge. It's about 60,000 gallons a second, I think, is what they said. I mean, it just floods everything. I mean, it's going to put any fire out that's in there.
Okay.
And about drowned a couple of the Lockheed techs.
And is that the norm, or is this
this was
one time?
The sensors were set up for flashes of heat or exceeding a certain.
It was reading heat signatures. It was reading heat signatures.
It was the radiating heat from the engines and from the airframe possibly, but it set off the deluge system. So the fire alarms went off. I have a line badge, but we're 8 miles from the flight line, and someone took the truck already. So I heard it during the week, and it wasn't until the about 10 days later, March 10th, I'm out. I had worked over a lot of overtime. In the military, you don't get paid overtime. You get comp time for overtime.
Oh,
so it helps. So yeah. I had like 3 days off. I'd finished on Tuesday, and I had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, and I was going to be back on Sunday. But there was a shuttle plane. Excuse me. A Piaggio. It's a gull wing pusher. I think it holds 12 passengers. Flies between Edwards Air Force Base outside of L.A. into Hawthorne, the home where the main plant was for Northrop. Northrop were flying aircraft back then. So I hear a roar and stuff being blown across Rogers Dry Lake, and I went running down the taxiway, and I looked towards the XB-70 test pad. And at first I thought it was the X-15 rocket plane, but the people were too small. And all of a sudden they yelled, "Hey, we're loading, get on board." So I ran back up, we got in, went to the checklist. We took off over Rogers Dry Lake, and we banked right over this airplane that had been running just a few minutes earlier. And I looked down on the top of a Blackbird. Wow. I mean, here's an 18-year-old kid who was absolutely, the reason I joined the Air Force was to keep from going to jail, but I was a spirited youth by today's standards. Back then, I was just a juvenile delinquent. And I mean, it changed my whole life.
Yeah. It was like that. My dad actually had images of the SR-71 because he was in the Air Force when he was based Mayfair Air Force Base, and he brought me these. They were the beautiful glossy photos that are pulled out of the chemical liquids and stuff, not like you get at the store. I mean, it was just beautiful, crisp, huge 8x10s, and he had images of the SR-71. And he also had images of the space shuttle on top of the 747.
Yeah, 747.
And so that's what sparked my love for flying in space and all that. So yeah, flying over something like that, and you know that you're one of a very few people that got to see it by that point, I'm sure it was just thrilling.
The public didn't see it until September. This is March 10th. They didn't see it until I think the 24th or something like that of September of 64. So fast forward, now it's 1968. I write Air Force, Lockheed, Department of Defense, Secretary of the Air Force, and the CIA. I would like, and I'm willing to pay the published price. It was like $6 for an 8x10 color glossy.
Mm-hmm.
I would like about a dozen and shots of the Blackbird in the air. And their official policy, their official unofficial policy, was not to cooperate. They wouldn't even respond to my letters.
Wow.
This is before the internet. So I started digging. And the more I found out, the deeper I dug. The deeper I dug, the more I found out. And it got to a point, and this is per Ben Rich, and this may be why he liked what I did. He said, from a historical point of view, not necessarily an engineering point of view, but from a historical point of view, said there isn't anybody on this planet that knows more about the Blackbird's history than me. Because back then, when you worked on, even if you worked directly on it and you're working on a certain part of it or a certain segment of its design or operation or testing, you couldn't go ask the guy in the next cubicle over from you, hey, what are you doing?
Because it was all compartmentalized.
Yeah,
because all the technology was so top secret. Not everybody could know the full, except for the head guys.
Rosemont, for example, was actually building some. They making the air data systems for the A-12, the YF-12, and the SR-71, and all they were told was the fuselage contour, the direction of the airflow, and the speed, the estimated speed of its normal operating environment. And that's all they were, at least the airspeed over that data point. And that's all they knew. They didn't know the shape of it or anything else like that. They just knew where it was in relationship. This would be the side of the fuselage, and you're going to have something coming out here. So they knew it had this angle, this contour, and they have boundary error on the first 2 or 3 inches, and you want to be outside the boundary error, or maybe you want to be inside of it. All those things. They don't know where this thing is going to be on, what kind of airplane it's going to be on, if it's even an airplane.
Right.
So
they're just all. It's like a master designer designed it and he broke it into parts and says, "Here, you work on this, you work on that, you make this, you make that."
Yeah, and you can't talk to each other.
Right. Can I bring something up that you've brought up before, and I think people will think it's kind of cool. I hope. You mentioned how Skunk Works. They said they work with stinky, smelly, fuels and stuff like that. Can you explain to people about how the SR-71 used up more fuel, I think you said, just for takeoff than for flight because it would leak?
Well, first of all, the airplane will hold approximately 100,000 pounds of fuel. Wow. That's about 12,000 gallons.
Wow.
During training flights, they cannot take off with a full fuel load. They lost 3 airplanes to that. Wheel and tire failure on takeoff. You blow one tire, the other 2 are going to go. Each main bogie has 3 wheels. And they lost, they said 9, it was 950, 954, and 977 were lost wheel and tire failure on takeoff. Wow. And what it does, the wings are wet. The wings have fuel in them. But there's no bladder. The airplane environment.
There's no lining inside the plane, like a gas tank. It's just in there.
The stuff is just, the fuel is just sitting on the skin of the airplane. Because the environment goes from minus 70 degrees below zero to almost 1,000 degrees. Normal fuel bladders, a couple, 3 or 4 cycles through that type of heat and cold, and they would become brittle and start leaking and contaminating, clogging up fuel lines and whatever. So the airplane will fuel up with 40,000 pounds of fuel, and there's fuel on the floor. It leaks. Uh, from the time they leave the hangar until they literally rotate, they'll go through about 800 pounds of fuel, which
Wow.
is more than some airplanes carry.
Yeah.
Uh, the first thing they do is they go supersonic. They go up to 35,000 feet. They go into a dive. It's called a dipsy doodle. They go up to a dive and they go in, and they consume about 25% of their total fuel consumption going through that transonic range.
Okay.
They'll go up, they go through transonic, then they'll come back down and they go find a tanker. Before they even start the engines, they send up two KC-135Qs, and the Blackbird does not use traditional jet fuel as they use today or as they used back during Vietnam. They don't use JP4 or JP8. They use Jet A, which is a less flammable fuel. The
Okay.
Blackbird uses JP7, which is a triple distilled kerosene, and it uses a fluorocarbon lubricant. The engines get so hot, normal hydraulics and normal pneumatics won't work. So they actually use fuel to move all the valves and stuff on the engine, and then it's used once, and then it goes into the engine.
Hmm.
So the engine actually consumes all the control fluid for for the afterburners and other devices within that are on the engine that help it operate at Mach 3.
Wow.
But the airplane, a good example of how well the airplane likes to fly. Ken Collins was flying from Beale to Kadena, Okinawa in an SR-71. He was also one of the original A-12 pilots, but he was flying to Kadena in an SR-71. And about a good 1,000 miles out, he's about halfway to Hawaii, he loses his stabilization augmentation system, which is something that's critical when you're moving through the air at 3,300 feet per second. The SAS actually flies the airplane and it senses. I mean, when you're going, where you're going faster than a speeding bullet, if you have a, what was that, or you sneeze hard as you're holding the stick, you could disintegrate. So the SAS
Oh.
actually flies, the SAS actually flies the airplane at speed and altitude. I mean, you command the aircraft, but the SAS keeps it where it's
Keeps
supposed to
control of the
be.
stick.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
because at that
So
speed, yeah, you just
so
explode.
you what you have to do, you have to immediately decelerate and go subsonic on the way back. Either
Wow.
continue off to Hawaii or head back to Beale. So he chose to go back to Beale. He used twice as much fuel with a tailwind going back to Beale than he used going through his Gypsy Doodle to the point where he lost his stabilization augmentation system. So the airplane is about twice as fuel efficient at 2,100 miles an hour as it is at 600 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, but
Yeah.
it's cool. I mean, that's why I wanted you to talk about it. Now, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I still
Already?
have a lot of yeah, it went by quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I want to go into some really cool stories with you, and we're going to show these books for the people, because what we're going to do is we're going to go on Patreon at 8:30. That gives me 30 minutes to reset everything, and I'm sorry for YouTube, I don't know why that didn't work. And we'll be broadcasting on Patreon at 8:30 for about 30 minutes, 40, however long Jim wants to go. And it'll be no holds barred. But let me just show you guys real quick again. This is the one of his books, SR-71 Blackbird. And you can get this on where can you get these books?
Yeah. If you're a Prime member, and I'm not a big proponent of Amazon, but they do sell my books,
Awesome.
and they get you can't get them any cheaper or any less expensive. That sounds a little bit better,
Yeah.
because they also pays postage
Mm-hmm.
or shipping. My 75 years of the Lockheed Skunk Works, it's 384 pages, right around 1,100 photos, and it weighs 5.5 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just.
And I have stuff. That Skunkworks presidents, former Skunkworks presidents, had no knowledge of.
And isn't one of these sitting on Elon Musk's desk?
Yes. No, my Blackbird book is.
Oh, the Blackbird book. Okay, now let me
Yes.
show these two others that I do have. The B2 Spirit, and you have 28 books, right?
29. 29th is at my publisher as we speak.
Okay. I knew you wouldn't stop, so that's good. Now, he doesn't just do airplanes, because being stealthy can be done in many ways. He also has one on submarines, so fast attack submarines.
Yeah,
So
I cover the a book. Volume 1 is the 688 Los Angeles class and the 688 Eyes, plus know your adversary. So I have the Russian, Chinese, North Korean, and Iranian submarine forces in there as well. And then Volume 2 was covering the Seawolf and Virginia class subs, and they allowed me to photograph everything from the reactor bulkhead forward on both the LA class, Virginia, and Seawolf class, as well as the Ohio boats. And it took me 7.5 years to get on the Connecticut. That's when they hit the seamound here a month or so back out near Indonesia. And it's just I've been blessed by being able to do fun things, and I'm really happy with that.
I got to ask something I never thought of asking you before till just now. Who was the gentleman that wrote Hunt for Red October? Amazing writer. Clancy.
Tom Clancy.
Were you his leak? Is that how he knew all the technical aspects of all this?
No, but I did write him and say some of the things you have in here are about the F-117 are bull. They're old wives' tale or whatever. So I set him straight. And I mean, I've been in a ballistic missile submarine at 400 feet. Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman and Crimson Tide don't have anything on me because I've been up there. We're going through the Straits of Juan de Fuca.
Yeah. Well, no more stories. You got to hold it for the next section, because we're at the top of the hour. I got to say my goodbyes. Yeah, we got to leave them hanging, wanting more. So real quick, hello, Vicky. You were here. Thank you very much. And Audrey says it's a beautiful book. Jim, Dave D from Down Under in Australia says hello to Terry.
Midway, though.
Yeah, I got to get him on. He's also an author as well. So the only time I've seen an SR-71 in real life was at Biggin Hill Air Force Base, UK. Beautiful. All right, so everybody, if you want to see the continuation of this episode where we get to say what we want, that's going to start at 8:30 on my Patreon page. It's a subscribing thing, but that's because I'm doing this full time now, so I've got to have some form of income. So come over there, and there's 4 tier levels, and the second one you get like 4 gifts a year. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and Jim's gonna be actually my first Patreon interview. So why nobody? It's Jim. So I'm so happy about that. All right, but we're gonna give everybody a 30-minute break, so you can let the dogs out, grab a bite, go outside, whatever you got to do, and then come over to Patreon and hear the rest. Because one thing we're going to talk about, just so you guys know, one of the things I'm going to start off the show with is I want to talk about what's going on right now with the International Space Station, with the Russian astronauts and the American astronauts, and the threats we've been getting from the head of the Russian administration saying we're going to leave our American up there. So I'm going to talk to him about this, and I want to get Jim's opinion. If you guys want to hear it, then come join us. All right. So until then, or until I'll be back Monday night. I'm not going to do Fridays because everybody's out doing their own thing. So Monday through Thursday for now, so I don't bite too much, take it too big of a bite. I mean, and then we'll, when I have my guests, we'll have them over on Patreon afterwards. So until then, I'll see you guys then. Jim, thank you very much. We'll see you in just a little bit.
2.5 hours.
Remember, as long as we all lift each other up, we will all rise together. I'm Doc Skinner, and this is the new Doc Force. All right. Good night, everybody. All right, so we're going to hit the end button, see if this works.